Howdy. Today, I'm gonna briefly go over the new artifact mods added in D2 Ash and Iron, which, for the most part, are fairly whatever. However, there are one or two mods in here that surprised me and might be worth your time, especially if you plan on doing the upcoming epic raid. Anyway, let's go through and review them all. Why don't we start off with Threadling Proliferation. Dealing strand weapon damage has the chance to spawn a Threadling. Defeating a strand debuffed target increases this chance. I'm gonna be honest, I think the wording on this mod is straight up not correct. It is not a chance to spawn a Threadling. I think it happens after you've done a certain amount of damage to an enemy overall. Bullying red bar enemies in the firing range, I can't help but notice that every time I do almost half of their health bar, maybe like a third of their overall health bar, then a Threadling comes out. Every single time without fail. On the other hand, I could sit here for quite a while, dealing strand weapon damage to this incredibly beefy, thick yellow bar, and not one goddamn Threadling is gonna come out. Again, seems to be once you've done X% damage to their overall health bar, maybe like a third, not a chance at a Threadling. The second part of the text, defeating a strand debuffed target increases this chance. This is extremely hard to get a firm number on because sometimes while trying to kill a strand debuffed target, the target will die to the strand debuff itself rather than your strand weapon. And after a bit of fiddling around, it seems that only finishing a debuffed target with a weapon will spawn a Threadling, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, who cares? If I had to wager a guess, seems to be about a 20%-ish chance, but do not quote me on that. If you do, you'll be hearing from my lawyer, the legal office of Aztec and Ross. Moving on, Pack Tactics. Dealing damage with Threadlings increases Threadling damage. I'm gonna go ahead and give this maybe an 8 out of 10 on the silly scale. But yeah, very easy to understand. Every time you deal damage with a Threadling, the very next one will do a little bit more damage. You do have a timer though, about 7 seconds give or take for your next Threadling to do more damage. If the timer expires, your Threadling damage goes back to the base level. What's weird though is I genuinely don't think there is a time limit on how high your Threadling damage can go. Check these damage numbers. Basically on the third Threadling you get up to plus 30% Threadling damage. But then after that, my Threadling damage went up by 2 damage each and every time. I kept going to see if there was a limit, but there wasn't. And eventually I just ran out of Threadlings. I kind of think there might not be an upper limit on how high the damage on this perk can go, but it's going to take you a while because it only goes up by 2 every time. I'll tell you what, first person to send me a clip on Twitter of them getting all the way up to 100 Threadlings worth of damage without breaking the chain gets an emblem from my collection. Best of luck to you. Oh, and by the way, like the artifact tells you, you can stun unstoppable champions with just 2 Threadlings, which is actually way less than what I expected. Go figure. Next up, we have maybe the most disappointing column 5 artifact mod I've ever seen in my entire life, Iron Lord's Vigor. The good news is you can at least use it to be slightly harder to kill while using one of, if not the most broken DPS glitch we've ever had in the game, but even still, not much of a huge benefit. Link in the pinned comment on how to do that glitch, by the way. The artifact mod reads, while wielding a sword, you take decreased damage, rapid final blows grant ammo to the wielder. In terms of how much tankier you become, hard to say. The game doesn't really give you damage reduction text on your HUD like it does with other things in the game that give DR. Here's the best I can do for you. First, I get stepped on by a giant Vex and take that much damage. Then I put on the artifact mod and get stepped on by a giant Vex again and take that much damage. If we compare the health bars right next to each other, each after taking one big step from the Vex, a little bit less damage taken overall, I guess, not a ton. If you're a sword main, then GG, I guess. Oh, and for the part about rapid final blows, yeah, that would be just 3 rapid final blows and you get 3 ammo back, which is fine, I guess, but kind of odd for a 5th column artifact perk, IMO. Why don't we get that disappointing taste out of our mouth with one I actually really like, Energy Acceleration. Sustained damage with micro missiles cause the combatant to emit a kinetic shockwave that damages nearby combatants. For right now, let's just assume you're using a rocket sidearm. If you shoot a red bar enemy, then the shockwave will happen after landing just 1 shot, which is great. FYI though, there is some kind of internal cooldown timer on this perk activating. Meaning if I shoot red bars back to back very fast, then the shockwave won't proc on every shot. But if I shoot a red bar, wait a second or two, then shoot another red bar, you can get that detonation to proc every single time. Again, just some kind of internal cooldown timer, but you can get it to proc a lot, which is nice. If you're shooting a larger, chunkier yellow bar enemy, then yeah, you can get it to proc every 2 shots about. Again, there's a little bit of an internal timer situation going on. If you spam shots back to back to back way too fast, it won't be every shot proccing a detonation. Either way, the perk is great because rocket sidearms are great, and so is Mint Retrograde, which also activates this perk. Actually, it works with a couple other things too. Quicksilver Storm, the Titan Hazardous Propulsion exotic chest piece, and even Gallarhorn, which if you didn't know, got a mild rework. It no longer deploys Wolfpack rounds after a rocket, but micro missiles. So yeah, an easy to use perk that is actually helpful in the game. My favorite goddamn kind. All right, moving on. Why don't we talk about Semi-Auto Striker and Argent Quiver, which kind of go together. For Semi-Auto, if you have fewer than 2 stacks of armor charge, rapid precision hits with bows, snipers, or scout rifles give you an armor charge. Literally exactly what it sounds like. Free armor charge on demand, which is great. Unfortunately, it requires bows, snipers, and scout rifles, which I don't really use a ton with a few exceptions. It's basically like if I offered you free money for doing 10 jumping jacks, but only in the form of Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Then we have Argent Quiver. Reloading a bow consumes 1 stack of armor charge, granting increased damage and reload speed for your next 3 shots or until you stow your bow. How much damage? What a handsome looking question, oh viewer mine. Looks to be around an extra 35% damage, which is actually pretty damn good. It can even stack with surge mods on your leg armor. When I added Argent Quiver and 3 surge mods, the total damage buff ended up being an extra 65% per shot. As you can imagine, if you pair Argent Quiver and Semi-Auto Striker together, you can get into a rhythm where you're just repeatedly giving yourself additional armor charge, which immediately gets funneled into Argent Quiver. TLDR, extra damage, arrows forever. But again, the only downside is you gotta use bows. So yeah. I mean, if you're a fan of the recently buffed Hierarchy of Needs, which I'll admit is a fun exotic, then this is very good news for you. Argent Quiver even buffs the damage of your little Hierarchy tracer arrow thingies. Also, I guess if you're a big fan of Leviathan's Breath, this is also good news because you're getting 35% extra damage output for free, which again, stacks together with surge mods on your leg armor. All right, final 2 mods. Now these aren't exactly flashy or crazy. They're actually sort of the equivalent of buttered Wonder Bread. Plain as fuck, but definitely good. Those would be light forged lead and that fresh bullet smell. Starting with the former, kinetic weapons gain increased ammo generation. Collecting an orb of power increases this benefit for a short duration. I decided I wanted to go get a vague idea on how efficient the ammo gains are because I'm a self-loathing individual with nothing better to do with their spare time, and I got a few kills with the Aureus Neutralizer. I ended up getting a special brick after 9 kills, and then a heavy brick and a second special brick at 18 kills. Then with light forged lead turned on, that went down to 8 kills, yielding a special ammo brick, and then only 15 kills for a heavy brick and my second special ammo brick. For the part about the Orb of Power, I got my first special brick in 7 weapon kills, and then in 14 kills, I got my heavy brick and my second special brick. Again, that is about as sexy as contributing to your 401k, but free ammo generation is free ammo generation, and I'm turning that on in the epic raid. That, along with that fresh bullet smell. Picking up an ammo brick gives your kinetic weapons increased damage for a short duration. Extremely easy to understand. Pick up an ammo brick and you get kinetic weapon boost ×2, aka about the same as if you'd gotten ×2 kinetic surge mod activated on your leg armor, and it lasts for about 10 seconds. Use those 2 artifact mods together in the epic raid for sure. If you're doing that, free ammo generation and free weapon damage, what could be better? And energy acceleration if you really love a good micro missile, just like yo mama. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.